we're not going to meet that long today. I just want to update you on some stuff, go over your paragraphs for the most part, and I saw a few more were posted today. I haven't had a chance to look at those, but they were really quite good. No, my situation changed in that, we've given up our cabin to my daughter and her family so they can shelter in place for 2 weeks. So we're glamping. We moved into my sister's tent. So if the window were clear, I could show you up through the snow, up in the trees where it is. But so he had to shave in a bucket this morning. It's a little different. I mean, the snow. So yeah, I'm kind of missing the house, but we're doing okay. Mrs. Lavender though doesn't have access to her computer or house, and for some reason she can't log on through mine. So she's still contacting donors. She's still working on the whole scholarship thing, and we'll get that figured out. Don't sweat it. But she'll be in touch with you guys pretty soon. I'm going to try and I was actually going to go down to my classroom, but because there's all the testing going on, instead of a zoo down there, I figured the reason I'm in my truck is the Wi-Fi. I'm actually parked by my sister's house, outside my brother-in-law's office. The terrible news is that my brother-in-law is actually in the hospital in Montrose with COVID-19. He's not doing well, so we're really concerned about that. So take this seriously, please. This the shelter in place, the social distancing. He's in rough shape. I'm confident he's going to pull through. He's not on a ventilator yet, but yeah, it's pretty bad. So, and I assume he got it when he went up to pick up my nephew in Boulder. So, as you guys have interaction with people, I saw Jaden running through town yesterday. It was great. But as you see, keep your distance. Keep your distance. I want you guys to stay healthy. Caden, how you doing? Jonah, great job in the announcements.
Thanks.
Who are you missing? Wiley, a bunch of people. Bryce. Okay. Well, listen, I have not heard, I'm not going to hear until the 3rd for 3 more days from College Board about their plans for the exam. But I did get a link to 3 videos, some random teachers in Naperville, Illinois. And if you guys can mute your mic, whoever I'm hearing back from, Matthew, mute. Max, thanks. Caden, thanks. Hey, great. Thanks, Tommy, if you can mute yours. Anyway, so I got 3 videos I'm probably going to post. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. I looked at one. It's kind of a random teacher in Naperville, Illinois, talking about the rhetorical analysis. All 3 videos. Hey, Peter. All 3 videos are on the rhetorical analysis, which is kind of a bummer. That's not the essay I want to do. So I may post those. We're probably going to look at rhetorical analysis essays beginning on Wednesday when we meet then. Hopefully I'll have a better setup than the cab of my truck. But anyway, let's let me take a look. Again, I thought this was a good prompt. I thought you guys, as I knew you would, because you're disobedient types, I knew you'd run with it, which you did. And I want to look at a couple of scored samples. But first I want to look at yours. Yours were uniformly better than the ones I'm going to show you that are actually scored. These are old ones, so it's scored under the old rubric. But let me just highlight a couple of them. I could spend a lot of time looking at, where are these? I could spend a lot of time looking at all of your essays because I think they're quite good. I pull up Wiley's because thanks to Jonah, I knew that it's his birthday yesterday or Saturday or whatever. But here's an example. How do I get rid of your pictures? Let me move this over here. Move these over here so I can see. So here's a typical, and again, all of your essays were quite good. Let me just read Wiley's and I'll comment on it. If the machine of government is of such a nature that it requires you to be an agent of injustice to another, then I say break the law. Henry David Thoreau, which of course, I don't know if Wiley had that in his head, was able to pull it right out of his ass, but obviously on, some of you guys had cool quotations, you had good dictionary definitions and whatnot. You're of course probably not going to have access to this stuff during this online test. However, because you're taking it online, you might have some stuff loaded up on your computer. I'm not sure, again, how they're going to make it work. But anyway, it's great. Readers would eat this up. Anybody who quotes Thoreau, and of course, Thoreau is so appropriate here. So anyway, Henry David Thoreau. Sorry. It's going. Henry David Thoreau, the author of this quotation, was put in prison for tax evasion. He believed the ongoing war in Mexico was a human rights violation and chose not to participate in promoting it with his tax dollars. Dissenters such as him protested the war until its completion, and more importantly, his words inspired the greatest change makers in future generations. Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. stoked the civil rights movement, was filled with promotion of nonviolent direct action. Large structural change has only been achieved through grand disobedience, not only historically but presently. My generation has many. Sorry, let me get this down. My mouse has disappeared. My generation has many voices that are creating change, but two stand out even as I write this very sentence: Malala and Greta. Nice first name. They're shaping our world through civil disobedience. They are changing the course of history through nonviolent revolution. They are fixing the future, nice alliteration, using tools of the past. And that's nice, and that kind of future past. The word injustice implies that a certain evil is institutional. Thoreau, Greta, Malala, King, and even Emerson recognize that injustice must be ended by breaking our system. Change makers are dissenters, so yes, disobedience will manifest change. Really powerful opening. What do we like about that? Well, you got your mic shut off. I'll just tell you what I like about it. What I like about it is it's super specific. It's not kind of just general, disobedience is the agent of, social change. You can have those sort of broad sweeping statements, but you want to, even in your opening, you want to ground them with, pretty apt and specific examples, not examples that you're going to go off on at length. That's going to be in the body of your essay, your body paragraphs. But I could look at any of these. Writers, I'll just look at a couple of these. I agree with your Irish author, Oscar Wilde, that disobedience to the eyes of anyone who's read history is man's original virtue, is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and through rebellion. Writer, I love that we find out right from the get-go that you're supporting this, you're in favor, you're a pro, not a con. Don't bother quoting the prompt at length. You can drop a little phrase or something, but the problem is readers are going to become so, let me get rid of this light, is terrible. Oh well. Readers' scores are going to be so familiar with the prompt that you really don't want to waste any time quoting the prompt at length. You can, if you want, you can paraphrase it as Wilder kind of did in your own words, but don't bother quoting the prompt at length. That's not a great strategy. Although this goes good. I love how writer. I love how you make this about science. This is especially true in science. Scientists are always challenging what we know about the world around us. Hundreds of years ago, when scientists were going against what everyone else in the world believed, they were being disobedient, going against what most everyone believed happened because some sort of God, making new discoveries, advancing technology, making progress. I'd like a slightly firmer thesis statement. But again, go ahead and use the opening paragraph to throw out some specific, mentions like Greta and Malala, to ground your broad sweeping statements, whether you're supporting or opposing whatever's being said in the prompt, and then use your opening, as Ryder does here, to narrow it down to the area that you want to, or the context that you want to argue this in. Nikki, yours was great. These are all, we got Martin Luther King, Susan B. Anthony, women's rights. Again, I love the specificity of these. Caden, these are all good. I've commented on, I think, most of them. Johnny's, these are good. So I like these. These are much better than what we're going to look at, but let's go ahead and look at the scored samples. Hey, Henry. Any questions so far? No? Good? Okay. Okay. Um, let me get, so here are 3 samples. We'll go through these. Let me see. I'm not going to move you guys again so I can read this. So another thing to obviously point out, length matters. The more you can write in 45 minutes, the better you're going to score, or the higher you're going to score. I see right off the bat as a reader, one of the first things I do is I glance at the length of the thing. Whoa, this is only a page and a half, which is problematic. But look at this opening and think back to Ryder's and Wiley's. Oscar Wilde once observed, and here we get the whole quote again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of the opening is not the student demonstrating his or her ability to write persuasively, but rather we're back to Oscar Wilde. And again, readers can just skip that because they become so familiar with the quote they're just going to jump right over that. History has shown us that different forms of rebellion resulted in the basic human rights we have today. It's also seen in modern day where people are currently making history and breaking the norms of society. Without disobedience, society would never progress as a whole. Not a bad opening. At least there's a thesis statement. And again, under the new rubric, I'm not sure how they would score this, if they would throw this. And that's what I hate about the new rubric is, this is these broad statements, showing the different forms of rebellion result of the basic human rights we have today. And then if you list 2 or 3 things, women's suffrage, the elimination of segregation, blah, 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 all have come through, people actively rebelling, actively being disobedient. You need that specificity even in your opening. Not that you're going to develop those ideas. You're going to save the development of each example for the body of your essay. But this is probably a little too broad. And this essay, we won't bother reading the whole thing. He goes, he says Animal Farm was potentially good. Then he gets into some weird stuff. Rebellion comes in different forms, and it does promote social progress. We wouldn't be the people we are today without the disobedience of our ancestors. The knowledge we obtained resulted in the changes after the struggling experiences of many people in the past. Again, too broad, not anchored, not grounded in specificity. This essay earned a 4 under the old rubric. So that's basically, you need at least a 5 or better to have it count as a potentially passing score. And the reason, so I don't know what's going to happen with the new rubric. I think, again, the new rubric is going to help you guys, although it's going to even more help writers who are less accomplished like this guy. So anyway, if you look at this next essay, you can all see this, right? Yeah? Yeah, okay. According to Oscar Wilde, disobedience is man's greatest virtue. Through disobedience, he claims, progress was born. Looking back on history, there is clearly truth to Wilde's assertion. In society, disobedience promotes the questioning of societal norms, historical change, and progressive thought. That's actually enough because it's so short. And because, he goes right into, in the next paragraph, he gets right into his examples. It's not a long paragraph with a lot of, sort of broad sweeping statements. It's a short, satisfactory, paragraph that establishes the writer's point of view and gets ready to run with it in a pretty good way. You can see this next paragraph. Wilde was not the only person who saw the intrinsic value of disobedience. Here we go again, like Wiley. Henry David Thoreau, a prominent transcendentalist writer, crafted an entire essay and a life plan on the principles of civil disobedience. Thoreau quickly developed his ideas regarding society and his disdain for conformity. Those thoughts soon led to actions as he spent time in prison for not paying his taxes. This form of civil disobedience was his way of challenging societal norms. I wish it was specific like the Mexican War and slavery, but oh well. I've read both Thoreau's and Emerson's works in school, which is kind of juvenile. It has left a lasting impression on modern philosophy. And this goes on, but again, this is 3 pages. And this is, it gets into, at this point, though, it's not like, right now, Bernie Sanders is hanging on for dear life in the 2016 presidential election. This must be an old essay. Although called a socialist by many, his radical philosophies have continued to garner the support of countless youths and adults alike. At this point, though, it's not likely he will win against Hillary in the Democratic primaries, despite the setback. Bernie's political thought has asked new questions about what future holds for American politics. His views are decidedly anti-establishment, which harkens back to nonconformist ideas of transcendentalists, making connections. That's kind of good. So again, this is a decent essay. This scored a 6, so it would put it in the upper half. What I don't know yet, because I haven't heard more about the rubric, is a 6 under the old rubric going to translate into a 4 or a 5? Kind of borderline. Again, I think the rubric's going to help you guys, but I'm not sure. One more. Look at this, man. This is not a very good essay, but it's, it's 4 pages. And again, length helps. Plus, you guys will be typing your essays, I guess, if it's going to be online, which is going to be nice. Anyway, here's this kid's opening paragraph. Newton's first law states that an object at rest will stay at rest, while an object in motion will stay in motion, unless acted on by a force. The last part of that is crucial. Good use of a semicolon there. Only by applying a force will the motion of an object change. In a similar vein, it is through disobedience and rebellion that social progress can be made. So no specificity like, Wiley's, no real effort like Ryder's to narrow it down, the field of the discussion to, in Ryder's case, science. But a nice analogy. And the sentences are good. We're not going to go through this whole essay. I could post these if you want. Maybe I will. I'll post this at some point so you can see. But this is what the scores are looking at. The general stuff. Whoops. The argument question asks students to utilize the knowledge of the world as well as their personal experiences observation to support a claim in response to a given question. This year's argument question first provided a quote from 19th century Irish author Oscar Wilde asserting the socially progressive function of disobedience before asking students to, quote, take a position on the extent to which Wilde's claims are valid, end quote. The phrasing of the question avoided prompting students to binary responses, arguing that Wilde is right or wrong, but instead encouraged students to develop more nuanced position on Wilde's claim. Well, it does not provide sources, as does the synthesis question. And again, I don't know if we're going to look at the synthesis question because I don't see how they can do it in 45 minutes. It's a 40-minute essay with a 15-minute reading period, which is 55 minutes. So again, my sense, based on these 3 videos, which I will post at some point, is that they may well make the one question the rhetorical analysis, which is why we'll look at that on Wednesday. But this is what they're looking at. It's interesting here. Nuance. The argument also depends on support for the claims made by students. Support that is carefully discussed so that the essay's audience will understand the reasoning behind it. In other words, this question is asking students to use rhetorical strategies to convince their audience that their claim is valid. These strategies include considering the student's own ethos. How does the student show they know what they're discussing? That's basically, you both Ryder and Wiley did that clearly in their opening. How do the students show they share the same values as the audience? How do they illustrate that the argument will benefit the audience? Logos, is the support acceptable? Is it logical? Is it relevant to the claim? Is support sufficient for the audience and the situation? And pathos, does the student align the audience with themselves? Do they alienate the audience? Do they try to move the audience with support? So they're trying to, I don't know. So anyway, this, one of the things, where does it say here? This right here, characterized by its clear organizational structure and smooth transitions. And that's key. They're looking for good writing, even if your argument isn't the most solid argument ever, even if it's not, super great examples or something. Your ability, and you guys all did this in your opening paragraphs, your ability to write with syntactical variety, to write interesting, complex, compound sentences, to have smooth transitions, to have a voice. So it sounds like Nikki, or it sounds like Danica, or it sounds like Wiley. It doesn't sound like just some random student writing what they think they want the readers to hear. So that's about it. Questions, comments?
I read something yesterday that said the AP was going to be open note.
Could be. I haven't. Again, I've been moving into a tent and trying to get settled there, so I haven't had a chance to check it yet. And now I'm getting this internet unstable as well. So I'll check on that. If you want to send me any link, Jonah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to that.
But I imagine it will be. There's no way that they can shut down your access to the internet. All they can do is restrict your time. So one thing we might want to talk about over the next couple of weeks is what are some things that we can front load by literally loading onto our computer. Does Bryce want to come up with a list of really good quotes that he likes, some of which might be useful? Does Justine want to, I don't know, what would be helpful for us? Again, we need to know whether it's going to be the rhetorical analysis or the argumentative. Frankly, I'm hoping it's going to be the argumentative because you guys will do better on that. But I think you'll do fine with the rhetorical analysis. If we find out it's going to be the rhetorical analysis, clearly one of the things you want to do is go back and look. You can pull up that whole page of rhetorical, the whole file folder of rhetorical strategies. We can remind ourselves what anaphora and prolepsis is and stuff. We can, maybe find that some of those terms are appropriate in our analysis. We'll want to remind ourselves what logos, ethos, and pathos are, what different kind of claims are, so we'll, fallacies, we'll go over that. But I don't want to waste your time doing that if, in fact, in 3 days or 4 days, they tell us March has 31 days, right? So when's the 3rd? The 3rd is Friday or Thursday? Friday. Anyway, once we get that information, we'll be ready to run with it. And I think that, if it is going to be kind of open notes, then one of the things we want to talk about is what do we want to have open on our computer and ready to reference, keeping in mind that it's only 45 minutes. And again, length matters. You can have long essays that are crappy, but it's rare that you have short essays that are successful. So we don't want to waste too much time. I mean, if you had a bunch of stuff loaded on your computer, Jonah, a bunch of notes and stuff, it'd be great if they gave us a question in advance, and we could prep something and just, type it up in 40 minutes. I don't know. But I don't think
you don't actually think that's going to happen, though?
I don't think it's going to happen, no. Yeah. No, I think, again, based on these videos, and I haven't had a chance to watch these videos. I'm still trying to get internet up in the tent, so it's a little better. But plus trying to stay warm with the dogs.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how are you guys all doing? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think that it's going to be any type of different money situation because, they're not making physical tests or anything like that?
That's a great question. I hadn't even thought of that, Grace. I don't know. I don't think they can legitimately charge you $83 for a test that is less than a third of what you'd normally get. That's a good question.
And because they missed a whole quarter of the year, I feel like there should be some type of money situation.
Well, yeah, it's what is it, $90 or something for the test? And that's, that cost is both, producing the test, distributing it, and mostly paying teachers to score it. College Board is ostensibly nonprofit, but that's a really good question. And, if they have some sort of online form, I'll certainly ask, but I don't know the answer to that yet, Grace. I do know that colleges, Karen, when she can get on her email, Karen's getting lots of emails from various colleges saying that, hey, we understand this last quarter might be kind of weird. If you go pass fail, which I don't think we're going to do because you guys don't need that. They're going to be lenient. A lot more colleges will be test optional. This doesn't help you guys so much. The juniors are freaking out, as you can imagine, because they can't take the SATs, they can't take the ACTs. So yeah, I don't know. Long answer, but it's really just, I don't know. What else you guys hear? Anything?
I just have another question, Lavender.
Sure.
If the test is open note and everything, are colleges going to accept these AP scores?
Yes. Yes. One thing I do know is that colleges are bending over backwards to, again, going test optional for admissions, for 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 the AP credit. I think they're going to be generous. Wouldn't it be great if they based AP credit on grade rather than test score? I don't know that they'll do that, but that's one thing that they could consider doing. But yeah, let's assume. I mean, we got a new rubric. We got a 45-minute test instead of a 3-hour and 15-minute test. So obviously things are pretty unsettled and up in the air. But my sense is that, and this is based on not granting AP credit, but based on the juniors who are freaking out about admissions next year, that given the number of colleges that are going test optional, at least for next year, given the way they're trying to bend over backwards, they might accept pass fail grades for the final quarter and whatnot. My sense is that they're gonna try to be equally generous in granting AP credit, but I honestly don't know. So yeah. Well, Jonah had a good idea. He said, hey, if it's only a 45-minute test, can I just take the English Lit test again? Because I didn't pass it last year, I could maybe pass it this year. But I think, Jonah, unfortunately, is that, if you're not registered back in the fall, you probably can't sign up now to take the test. So, yeah. Other questions, Garrett, anything? No? Bryce? No? Hey, Thomas. How you doing? Internet's working. For those who are joining late, I'm in my truck. It's a long story.
Yeah. Okay.
I gave up. I gave up my house for 2 weeks. So my.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, yeah, it's what parents do, and so my daughter and her family can quarantine for 14 days. So.
Okay, that's nice.
So we're actually living in a tent. It's right up in the trees there in the snow. It's kind of.
Oh my gosh.
Some camping.
It's glamping, yeah. If it were summer, it wouldn't be so bad. I've got a composting toilet. It's got some heat. It's got electricity. but it's it's not the same. Can't hook up the shower because the water line freezes. So. Oh well. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Are you guys maintaining? I know we're going into the third week, and this is the time. This is kind of a critical time when we can either rally. We can all say, fuck it, this is online learning's for the birds. I know I'm not asking you to do a whole lot, but I'm not really concerned about that. Also, all you guys, thank you for your messages saying, hey, I've been procrastinating. Hey, I'm still not clear. I'm Caden. I'm going to take a look at that page or whatever that you sent me. Don't sweat the Angels drafts. We'll keep working on revising them. Thank you to those of you who are done, who have sent them to me. But that's something that you can, I'm fine with our class primarily doing a little test prep once we figure out more about the nature of the revised test. But I'm fine with you guys mostly just, working on those essays. And I don't know. I thought about reading another book. I don't know how to get books to you. If worse comes to worse, once we get the test, once we get a better sense of the test and we know what we need to do for prepping for that test, I wouldn't mind reading some more short works I can post online that we can talk about, especially if those shorter essays kind of, from New York or Atlantic and stuff, especially if they kind of align with whatever the question is going to be. But again, we won't know until the end of this week what the question is going to be. So, great. Other questions? You guys are all staying healthy, having fun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Johnny. That's about it. I got my heater turned off in the truck. I'm starting to freeze. So we may cut this class short. Unless you guys have any other questions, comments, anything. Tell whoever didn't make it, Wiley, Thomas, if you want, you can just watch a recording of this, which I'll try and post later today. We'll meet on Wednesday, same time. Hopefully I'll be in my classroom or somewhere a little more accommodating for Zoom. But we'll meet Wednesday, and we'll probably, regardless of what we learn, we'll probably take a look at the at the rhetorical question again. Go back to that. You guys did one, remember, on the Albright's speech to at Smith College. So we'll go back and look at another one at on Wednesday. I'll probably break into rooms, have you guys think about the passage, read it. So we'll probably use more of the block that on Wednesday than we are today. But thanks for logging on. I appreciate it. Hope you guys are staying warm, dry, and healthy. Getting outside, getting some exercise in. Again, stay away from each other. As those of you who joined late, my brother-in-law is pretty darn sick. He's down in the hospital with COVID in Montrose, and so we're kind of freaking out. So yeah, this is the real deal. So keep the social distancing going, but keep in contact like this with each other. Contact me if you have any questions, and that's about it. I will see you guys on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You guys take care.
All right. You
Thanks,
too,
Mr. Lavender.
Thanks.